Good morning. This is Studio USA. I'm Rick, and it is our very first Winning Women's Wednesday. And I have my brand new co-host, co-pilot, co-captain, Michelle Ozimi. How are you doing?
I am so good today. I'm happy to be here. I am ready for this. Let's go.
Likewise.
Yes.
So, primarily, everything will be about the female in business. And
Love it.
mindset, motivation, that sort of thing. And normally we would just get a random topic as far as we'll let ChatGPT help out on that, the oracle, as we call it. So this time, though, I wanted to kind of do like your origin story and basically how you came to be as far as the coaching and the multiple hats that you wear.
Yeah.
And then, you can throw like a few softballs my way, like I'll, tee it up.
Awesome.
So now you are, what is your primary? So like if you were to make, does anybody still make resumes? But if you were to make, but if you were to make a resume, what would you say your primary hat is right now?
Ooh, definitely coaching. That's where my passion is right
Okay.
now. I absolutely love it. I've been around the block a few times and just offering advice and hopefully some wisdom and some leadership to the women out there in business really brings me a lot of joy right now because it's hard. And not just for women, it's hard for men too. But as an entrepreneur, that whole work-life balance thing is a little misleading. And the biggest thing for me is trying to help women find work-life balance that works for them in the season they're in. And it may not be what it looks like for everyone else.
Okay. And so like now, maybe elaborate on when you say season. Are we talking like specifically just demographics, like age based or?
All of it. Gosh, there's so many seasons of life. I mean, some seasons are busier than others. It could be kids. It could be a particular 3-month season. If you've got kids in baseball and you've got a really busy 3 months. So we don't do baseball, but what April through July looks like for you and your family and what you need to work out for your schedule could be completely different come August. And it could be different come November. And so knowing that.
And one of the things too, like just one of your other hats being the real estate broker, selling season. Where, we have that sort of baked in schedule of selling season where, from basically spring break until, what's the holiday that ends the summer? Is that Labor Day?
I'm so bad at that. But yes, one of those. Labor Day or Memorial Day. I think it's Labor Day.
I'm going to put where house money is going on Labor Day.
Okay, I'm with you.
So that season is like this roller coaster ride that is absolutely frantic, chaotic, and completely out of control. And then the roller coaster ends somewhere around Halloween and it's dead as disco until spring break of the next year. And I don't know about you, but there were a lot of times where I thought, by Thanksgiving of every year, we're going out of business.
Am I ever going to eat again?
It's all over.
Yes.
So now, whenever you're talking about the seasons, and then so actually, like, who is it now, or statistically, who is it that approaches you most for coaching? Like, describe that person.
It's a female that has been in business for, say, 2 to 4 years, in their 40s, and they want to grow their business, but they don't know how. They've had some success, but they're feeling stuck, and they're ready to go to the next level. And what I'm finding is they just don't have the right systems in place. They've been successful because they've hustled, which is great, but eventually that runs out. And putting some systems in place and really figuring out what works for you will bring you a streamline of business so that you can really build a business that you love and keep it growing and be there for your family and your friends.
Right on. So now, as far as the gals that come in, so if they're in it 2 to 4 years, you've already been beat up, because there is.
It doesn't take long in this business.
Or in any business.
True.
I've found, because I've morphed like so many different things over the years, and like now we're sitting in a studio or whatever. But 6 months ago or 6.5 months ago, this was a barbershop. So.
But you weren't the one cutting the hair, right?
No. But we will do haircuts. Hey. I have thought about, because the sign is still out front.
Hey, Multitasking.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, it's kind of, if you don't know that we're here, you wouldn't know that we're here.
No.
But you might accidentally think that you're going to touch a class barbershop and get a haircut.
Hey.
So I thought like, well, maybe we offer that. Well, we'll do green screen videos, live streaming, podcasts,
Perfect.
Listing photos, and haircuts.
And sign a disclosure.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
We are not responsible.
Yeah, we are not responsible for a bad haircut. Well, and I haven't gotten a haircut probably in at least a decade.
Wow.
I'm the
Wow.
I'm the trim your bangs by your chin guy at the house. But so when the gals come in and they are, do you find that they are stuck in the sense that they don't know what to do next, or they're burned out from doing what they're doing?
They're burned out from doing what they're doing because they're all over the place. They haven't solidified a system, and I know I've said that several times, but that really is the key. They haven't dug into what's actually working. They're just all over the place.
Now, do you think is that a I don't know, byproduct of being chief cook and bottle washer? Because the idea of, it always looks so good on Instagram. Oh, I started a business. I'm doing this thing,
Yeah.
whatever. And then, God forbid that you actually get successful or you get busy, because it's been my experience that I become the bottleneck, and yet my imposter syndrome
Yeah.
won't let me let go of anything.
Yeah.
And so now, is that the same for like in the female world, where especially if
100%.
you're trying to play this all things to all people, and like you said, trying to balance kids, life, home.
Yes. It's a new term that I've learned. It's called overfunctioning. We like to overfunction and not let anyone take anything off of our plate, because we feel less than if we let someone else do it. And does it really matter who does the dishes? Is there really a right way? Really? I mean, come on. I know you may load the dishwasher one way and I do it a different way, and we have this argument at our house all the time, but as long as they're clean and put up, who cares?
That I agree with. However, I will say that the toilet paper needs to be rolled over the top.
Absolutely.
Oh, all right. There we go.
Absolutely. I mean, there are rules. There are rules now. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, Lord. Cruise. Okay.
I love it.
So we've got, this is the skeleton crew today.
Yeah.
So Cruz and I set everything up. Everybody's got.
Hey, we're just getting started.
Oh, yeah. So we were absolutely building the plane in midair. But so Cruz learned how to do the sound effects on the board.
Oh, this should be fun.
Yeah. And so, okay, we've already created a monster. But hey, that first one was,
I like
very,
the first one. It was good.
Yeah, that
It
was
was good.
very apropos.
Yeah.
But he loves that air horn gimmick.
That's awesome. Hey,
So
keep the energy up.
Yes, absolutely. So when you're trying to, I love overfunctioning, and
Huge.
so like one of my biggest things was to get somebody to have any kind of influence over the final product, whatever that may be. That was a struggle.
Yeah.
Because that's what I felt like had my name on it.
For sure.
And so now, how do you coach somebody out of basically what is essentially asking for a panic attack?
Yeah. And we go through, it's called an energy exercise. And we go through an exercise where we look at what 100% requires you. And there will be things that you cannot hand off. I'm going to speak later today. I can't send somebody else to do that. I mean, I just can't.
Michelle couldn't make it.
So you look at where the things that you need to expend your energy, and what are the things that can be delegated. And then when you're looking at what can be delegated, 80% of how you would do it is probably okay. And that's something you have to come to terms with. One of my favorite pastors, Craig Rochelle, that is something that he talks about, is just because it's not being done the way I would do it doesn't mean it's wrong. So you have to look at where are those areas in your business that you can really let go of, that if the dishes are loaded this way versus that way, does it impact the bottom line? And there will be many areas where the answer is no. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and the idea that if you bring somebody on, they're never going to be as emotionally invested or have their identity tied up in the way that you would as the founder, owner, or like whatever the title.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So now, how do you get somebody out of that? I guess, is that like a learn by doing, or learn like just, it's learned behavior for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, not everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur. So you look for those people who are there to be the ones who build you up. For most entrepreneurs, we're real visionaries. and we are all over the place. And we need people beside us who are going to be honest and not just tell us what we want to hear, but are going to encourage us and say, okay, now here's how we do this. Because, so I have an amazing assistant, Jessica, and I mean, I will throw stuff at her on a Monday morning and she's like, okay, but that's not realistic. And I need that because she comes back and she says, I wanted her to do a whole website update yesterday. And she was like, no, we're not doing that.
Learn to code, bro.
So we made some tweaks. And that was great. But I needed someone to tell me, okay, this is not realistic for what we can get done this week, but this is what we can do. And she doesn't really ever want to own her own business. But the key is making them feel welcome, giving them empowerment, giving them a voice, and listening to that voice.
Right on.
Yeah.
So now, for you, was the entrepreneurial thing something that you just had, like that was the end goal? Or
I don't think so. I think I just stumbled into this. I ended up with 3 kids. Not sure how that happened. Keep it clean, they're watching. Not the one in Seattle, he's in bed. 3 kids, and daycare was out of control. And I was like, I can't do this. And I was working late and just all the things.
Okay, so you had a corporate job.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so
Yeah.
where you went to a place, did a
Yeah.
thing, and they gave you a check.
Yeah, never want to do it again. You learn fast. So got into real estate, and yeah, it just went up from there, and it's been an amazing ride. And it's been interesting watching my kids because my oldest daughter is gainfully employed now, and she was going to work for a company and get a paycheck. She got laid off her first job in New York City, like had only lived there like 6 weeks. She started doing, she's a costume designer. She started doing contract labor, and she's like, oh, I am never working
gig
for
economy.
anyone again. So yeah, so now she's self-employed and loving it.
That's awesome.
It's a lifestyle.
Yes, and there is a certain, like you, I was going to say there's a certain mindset, but now that I think about it, it actually happens to you.
Yes.
It wasn't like I was wired to where, yes, of course, I would have said, yes, going to B of A every day or the Ivy Tower at City.
Yes.
It sucked. But the trade-offs.
There's the perks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get good benefits, or you get, a cell phone, or you get, really good money. But then,
The company card for expenses.
well, and you become trapped into this thing, and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, it's so funny because, okay, so I've been sober for 19 years.
Awesome.
And the
Congratulations.
Truth, thank you. But I say that to say that the truth is I've only ever been fired twice in my life. And both times I was sober. Where it was like literally what? Out of left field. And it was just, and it turned out that it was like, personalities or perceived conflict or whatever.
Yeah.
When in reality, I didn't care.
Yeah.
And then the time, what led to this was I was a mortgage guy, and
Rough.
What it turned into, we were at we were talking about Metrotex earlier.
Yeah.
And so you host one of the MLS meetings, so you are you are absolutely intimately familiar with the whole setup.
Yes.
Well, I was affiliate chairman, and we were doing this gigantic event, and the person then at the time who I worked for might have had a few
Oh.
at lunchtime.
Oh.
Which obviously that was not
Kosher?
That was no longer my lifestyle.
Right.
So it's like, I'm not throwing stones for that particular thing. I was that guy, but it ended up where had that not have happened, I would not have, woken up the next day and thought like, oh, what am I going to do now? And had to pivot and
Yeah.
just sort of like, wow, I can spin plates.
Yeah.
And so 17 things at once then turned into the path that got me here.
Yeah.
So for you, was it, so you had the kids,
Yeah.
or I'm sure you had them one at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Highly recommended that way.
Yes. So now, was it just the fact that like, okay, I can't do the 9-to-5 thing and feel good about being a mom, or was it because I see what the daycare thing is now, and it's like, man, that's ridiculous.
I can't even imagine
it's
what
like
it is now.
extortion.
I can't even imagine what it is now. It seemed crazy back then. And yeah, it was a combination of things. I didn't love the job. I was quickly, like most people, disillusioned with the corporate world. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't the income level that I wanted to reach. yeah, I had these visions of of a fancy corner office, and it was not.
Well, I think we're in the same age demographic.
Yeah.
So we would have been basically indoctrinated into the sort of the Prussian model of school,
Yes.
which is really, okay, we're just teaching a boatload of kids to go to a place, sit still until the bell rings,
Yeah.
do what we tell you, and then when the bell rings, you go to the next thing we tell you.
Yes, yes.
And then you pop out the other side.
Yeah, and it didn't work for me. It just, that traditional lifestyle. And, my husband was very supportive and was awesome about, let's figure it out. Like, because he wanted to be home with the kids more too.
Oh, right on.
And I didn't want to be home with them full time necessarily, but I also didn't want the time I spent with them to be so stressed and to always be like at night, put them to bed and all the things. So yeah, I decided I'd get my real estate license right before the recession. So that was perfect. It gave me plenty of time. But I learned a lot.
Well, and
fast.
to that, I'm always fascinated by, when I have these conversations, how many people, it is certainly more than 51%, that say like, oh, I did this thing right before everything went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
And then boom, it's like wartime general versus peacetime general. And it's like, of course, everybody's going to think they're the wartime general, just like everybody thinks they're the good guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'd go back in time and kill Hitler. You probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea that you don't really find what you're capable of almost until you're forced.
Right. Absolutely. And that's how real estate was. Like, we needed to keep the lights on, and we had diapers to buy and all the things. So yeah, I was doing short sales and foreclosures, and I was helping clients flip mobile homes. I mean, you name it.
Oh, you're doing all the unsexy stuff.
Oh no, it was not pretty.
That would be the equivalent of me going in and it's like, we're going to have you do loan mods this week.
Yeah. Yeah. The first week in my brokerage at the time, we went on tour. And the very first house that we went on tour was a mobile home that was partially underground in Palmer. And I was like, what am I doing? It was insane. But clearly things have worked out.
Now that's a listing I would like to shoot, just to have it in the back catalog.
I'm telling you, there was some things going on in that mobile home.
Yeah.
It was interesting for sure.
As a teenager in Keller in the mid '80s, Meth Lab comes to mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know for a fact there was more than one trailer buried out in the hinterlands.
Yes, there was some interesting
shenanigans.
Saw some things. Yeah, still do. I mean, still do. Better price point, but still see some things like.
Oh, I've seen some stuff in $1 million homes, like the hidden door under the stairs and stuff.
Yes.
Where you're like, whoa,
Yes.
okay, we're not taking a photo of this.
No. Oh, fun stuff.
And so now, when somebody comes in, this is one that always, on one hand, it irks me, where it's, follow your passion. And it's like, wow, that looks great, like on an Instagram post, or that looks fabulous as like a Hallmark kind of moment. But I found that I didn't really care until I started to get good at something. So
Sometimes
it's like,
you don't know.
Well, and so for example, it's like I've shot probably, I don't know, 2,000 houses, more maybe, over the last 8 years, probably 3,000. But if I would have lived to be 1,000 prior to that, I would have never rolled out of bed and be like, why can't I take photos?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until that presented itself, and then I started to doing it, and then there's like this weird switch that flips, and at least for me, where, oh wow, I of course at the beginning you suck. You objectively are terrible.
You can't be afraid of failure.
Right, and I lucked out because I had a Matterport camera, so circumstances happened in like 2014, 2015, where I was presented with a presentation. I was literally presented by the gal presenting the Matterport camera. I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so I financed one. I got one, and I started doing that just as a thing because I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
That's all. That was the sum total of all of it. And then the photos came out of, somebody said, it was actually a broker that said, hey, if you offered photos and that together, that'd be really, that'd really be something. And it turned into, I got a camera and I would just do the photos for free. Cause it's like, I would learn on the job, and I'd be like, hey, I'll have photos when I'm done, and they might be good. They'll probably be terrible, but you can have them.
That's awesome.
And that's how I started.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I don't know, probably 2 or 3 years in that I ever even tell anybody that I was doing that. So I say all of that to say that I didn't really start enjoying it until I was at that place where, and it's not even that I was good. It's where you realize I won't suck forever.
And I like doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it beats the hell out of going to a cubicle.
Yes.
And so I swear to God, my business model has been and continues as long as I don't have to go get a job next week.
A real job.
Yes, it's all good.
Yeah.
And, there was a Stephen King quote where he said, if somebody paid you money to write a thing, you're a writer. And so, because I would never call myself a photographer or a videographer or whatever, but it's like the truth is, if you got paid to do it, then you're that thing.
Yeah.
So for you, was it one of those things where real estate was awesome at the get-go, or was it like where was it at on? Oh, okay, so
it was so exciting. Like now I wasn't great at it, but I loved it. Like I enjoyed it, and I was always about the business side of it. That's what I loved: the negotiations, the back and forth, the sales piece, the doing the listing presentation to the client, and them saying, "Okay, yes, I'm going to go with you." Like that's the piece that I really, really love. Houses are fun, but they all start to look alike after a while. Especially in the suburbs, which is where I really am.
And if you start on the buy side, which everybody does, I mean, you're just a glorified Uber driver.
Yeah. So I quickly realized that, and I quickly shifted into the listing side. So that's the piece that I love. And so even in coaching, I'm really working with people on how to get more listings.
Well, I was going to say that would be, that would be like the dentist, or people are always going to have teeth.
Yeah.
And so like in real estate, there are always going to be agents, and there are always going to be agents on the buy side who want to get listings.
Yeah. The listings are the way to go. I mean, it's definitely whoever controls the listings controls the market.
Oh yeah. I mean, it literally tips the map and the sales funnel at you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially as we start to see things shifting with the things going on at NAR and buyer's agency and whatever. I don't even want to speak to that because who knows how it's going to end.
Right. Well, that'll probably be in court forever. And then, but one of the things I see now, like, because I'm a huge fan of just, I sit in the bleachers and I just watch stuff.
Observe.
And the idea that, there are all kinds of just like two cats in a bag where they fight over the buy side commission.
Yeah.
And it's like they're announcing, it's 1%, it's this, it's that, da, 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 da. And then I just watch the fur fly.
Yeah.
And that's that's going to sort itself out, but it's not going to be like right now.
No, it's going to take years.
But the listing agent will never go out of stock.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely
and
not.
what people don't realize is how difficult or how stressful the thing is if you're really in it and really good at it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a job. Make no mistake.
It's work.
Yes.
And there's just like any position, there's perks, but then there's also some downsides. And when you're an entrepreneur, you work 24 hours a day. You are always on call. There is always something going on.
So did you ever have a moment where you're like, oh, it didn't look like this on the brochure?
Yeah, pretty much.
As far as the, because like, I can't remember what it was. Oh, I know what it was. It was something along the lines of where I had forgotten to shoot, like, I don't know, an ancillary bedroom on the second floor, back corner, whatever.
Okay.
And it wasn't just across the street, and it was like, okay, I got to go 45 minutes to go take one photo.
One photo.
So that's technically an hour and a half, which is the giant chunk of a morning or whatever.
Yes.
And to realize like, oh, this is what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
When you're the guy or the gal that is the company. And so
it's not glamorous.
No. And so what I do now in those instances, because it's like, I don't know, I probably had something like that once or twice last year where it was like, oh, one of these. I now look at it as I get to go back to that mindset of whenever I was the only one doing anything. Because like for me now, I still come in here and it's like I'm hallucinating. And you've been here on a Friday where there's like 6 or 8 guys over there.
So fun. Yeah.
And it's total chaos. And it's like, wow, I can't believe. Yes, of course they're here because I'm paying them. But there is the aspect of like, I can't believe this is real.
Yeah.
Versus like, I'm sure whenever you were like, when you're now. This is a good question. So how many folks do you do one-on-ones, or what is your specialty there?
I will do one-on-ones. My signature program is a group of 8 to 10 women, entrepreneurs, but all from different fields. And we spend 6 months collaborating together to build our business. And then within that, they each get a one-on-one session every month so that they can talk about things that are a little more private.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the group collaboration is amazing because one, it fills that loneliness void that the entrepreneur experiences. And that's true for men too. And it also allows you to learn in different ways because just because a realtor does it this way doesn't mean it's the only way for it to happen.
Yeah.
And finding out new ways of doing things can seem innovative and give you a whole new passion.
Absolutely. And it kind of
re-energize you.
Gives you permission to be like, oh, I don't have to have all of it figured out all the time.
No.
And so now, I'm always curious, are there certain universals that you see in like, so if you have a group of 8 women, a lot of, say like, so for example, I'll try to not to ever speak to too much detail on the recovery thing but there is, if somebody comes, if they wash ashore and they need to, basically unscrew their lives.
Yeah.
There are certain universals that almost everybody goes through.
Yes.
And so I'm curious on the group coaching side, are there like basic framework that you hit for everybody?
Yes, absolutely. Because they're all experiencing burnout and they're all doing too many things. Yeah. They're all it's like throwing the noodle to see what sticks. Like,
right.
Yeah. And you can streamline it and it can be so much easier.
So now is it like they're scattershot and it's like you wake up like a shot out of a cannon and it's like, now, and because for a long time until I had any kind of a system or any kind of procedure or anything in business, it was literally you just wake up and look for what's on fire.
Yes. And that's what most of them are doing. They don't know how to put a schedule together. They don't know how to plan a week, plan a day, plan a quarter. They don't know how to project. They just know what they did last year and they want to do more. Well, how did you get those numbers? No idea. Where did your business come from? I don't know. People. Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, and that makes me feel better. And again, you're right. That is universal for everybody.
Yeah.
And I've had the moments where like, oh, I don't want to scrutinize it too bad,
Sometimes you don't want to know.
Right. I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to know. So now I'm super excited for this. So this is awesome. And I like getting a little bit more of your your backstory and the origin. And I would love to maybe we'll get now, are your coaching folks local or are they?
Because we do it via Zoom, it's all over. But we have a lot of local folks because we do get together once a month for lunch. It's on the second Thursday of every month. The restaurant is always different. So check out my website and you'll know where we're going to meet next Thursday.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's super fun. You don't have to be a coaching member to join. It's just a way to
I love that.
Get some ladies together and have a good time.
Okay, well then maybe we'll have to have like a Wednesday devoted to just whoever's here local that could kind of come in.
Oh, a panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
So we set the record last week. We had 6.
Okay.
On the panel.
Is that how many? Was it 6 people?
Yeah.
They were great. They were funny.
Yeah, they were awesome. And the funny thing there is it's like you never know. So like our live deal normally, well even today, but we didn't have a specific topic dialed in.
Yeah.
But the reason that I do this, so technically this came out of the show that we do on Fridays.
Yeah.
And that show came out of the very first time I messed around and we had the guys here to live stream. It went out for 17 minutes with no sound.
Beautiful.
And so out of politeness, I wasn't looking at my phone while we were doing a show. But when I got done, I had an endless supply of, there's no sound. Where's the audio?
Oh, no.
And
so
it's
that means people were listening.
That's that's exactly how I took it.
Yes.
Glass half full. So this now begat something that we'll do maybe like a monthly panel.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Like maybe like the last Wednesday of every month or something. We get your gals in here and.
Hey. So I actually sent out and I think it's on social media as well, and it's on my email that people received, a invitation to apply to be on the show.
I love it.
As a guest. So yeah, we need all kinds of fun women. We are looking for entrepreneurs, professionals, whatever you got. If you think you've got a fun story and you want to be interviewed by us, then please.
I love it. And like we said the first week, it's like my ex-wives would say I don't know shit about women, but I'm willing to learn.
So who is a woman that you admire? Living or dead?
Living or dead.
Could be historical, could be a real person you see all the time.
So I have a bunch. So just to pull back the curtain, last night we actually shot the Ebby Halliday honor roll.
Yeah.
And one of
That's a
the
great
things,
group.
so prior to COVID, for 5 years, I was their Google instructor.
Okay, cool.
At Ebby School.
Awesome.
And one of the things I loved about, and the reason that I sent my nephew to take his license to Ebby when he got his license, was the fact that they had this culture that once you were in, you were like part of the family. But when you're part of the family, then they teach you about Miss Ebby.
Yes.
And the fact that she was like a legit badass
She's a legend.
in the day. Well, I mean, yes. And then the fact that if your funeral is on Channel 8, you've done something.
You've done something. Yeah.
And the idea in her story of where it's not that she created an image, but like her real name was not Ebby Halliday, you know? So, but like her backstory of coming up in like male dominated wouldn't even begin to tell the tale of, you know, like real estate and development in
Especially in Texas.
Yeah. 1950s Texas.
Yeah,
You know,
for
late
sure.
50s, early 60s. So the fact that she not only went through that, but, you know, and I mean, she was probably like in her mid to late 90s when I met her the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was still sharp as a tack. Now, she had in her entourage and her handlers or whatever.
Sure.
But she was still, hi, I'm Ebby. That was kind of like her, you know.
I love it.
And she loved chicken fried steaks. And I'm friends with the owners of Norma's. And so I'd get a heads up whenever she was coming in for a chicken fried steak. I'd get up with my picture made or whatever. But she's the first one that comes to mind just in our little universe here as far as real estate goes.
Cool.
Just because I'd gotten so familiar with what the empire, like
Yeah.
legit empire that she built.
Yeah.
And that would have been impressive. It would have if it would have happened like 10 years ago, let alone, you know, 78 years
Yeah.
ago. I mean, you know, think
That's
about
amazing.
that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's crazy.
Very cool.
But I think we're on a roll. I think we're
Yeah.
on our way.
Yeah.
And hopefully Cruz has enough wherewithal. Yeah. Are we good to go? We out? Wrap.
He said wrap it up.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. He gave us the high sign and the hand signal to wrap it up. All right.
Awesome.
So this is us wrapping it up as
wrapping
per
it up.
our producer, Cruz.
Yes. Thank you, Cruz.
And we will see you again next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, we've got some great guests coming. Glenda, the mortgage coach, is going to be joining us.
Love it.
And then we are looking for more guests who want to sit up here and chat with us. So, yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Awesome. See you Wednesday.